Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special money focused segment. And today we're talking about a very crucial thing, what happens at the end. So estate planning and risk cover is important. We're going to dive into that. What do you need to know and what decisions do you need to make? I'm here with Elbie Pretorius from Alex Forbes, and we'll be talking about some of these important topics. Welcome. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And again, good to be back.
Yeah, so what are the important things that we need to know when talking about estate planning?
Do you ever think about death?
Yeah,
You do?
I do.
And then are you planning around your death?
No, I'm not. So that's the thing.
That's the thing. So I think it's important, that's a certain fact that we all know we're going to pass away. The problem is we don't know the date. And we think it's not going to happen to us. We have time to get our affairs in order. But when you blink, you're there. And if you pass away and there's no will, what's going to happen to your assets that you've been working so hard, buying a car, having money in the bank, maybe own a property, maybe having kids who will be the guardian. So a will is really, really important to think about.
So what happens if one does pass away without having a will in place?
Then who's going to inherit your stuff? Who's going to inherit your hard-earned assets if you don't tell people, listen, I want Judy to get my car, Cameron to get my nice investments.
So then, in the case that that does happen, is there an alternative? Who steps in? What is that process?
The government.
Okay.
The government will step in and they will say, okay, who's your spouse? Is there a spouse? Is there children, grandchildren, maybe mother, father? And they will decide. So my question is, do you really want the state to determine who must receive your hard-earned assets if you do pass away?
Yes.
So please draw up a will as soon as possible and think about your death.
So the government essentially becomes like an executor, and then they'll
Executor.
decide.
They become the executor of the estate because nobody knows what you want to do. And people need to get your assets. So then the government steps in, correct.
And then in cases when there isn't enough money to cover those costs, because there's also a cost system, I'm sure, involved, what happens in that scenario when there isn't that money available?
Always, there's always fees. And I think it's important to think about it. I mean, the executor needs to charge fees. There's a lot of work going into estate. And what do you think they will do? They will start selling your assets. They will start selling your house. Maybe your family then don't have a house to stay in. Sell your car because there need to be liquidity in your estate to pay all the fees.
And then what can one do to ensure that there's always money available in one's estate to maybe cover some of those fees and costs and not impact the assets available? What can one do whilst alive, I guess? Yeah.
Very important. Go and sit down with your financial planner.
Okay.
Go and look what's your debt, what is outstanding. So if you pass away, you can take out a life policy. So, okay, my house is worth 1.5 million, I owe 1 million. You can take out a policy and you can settle your debt when you pass away.
Big one. And I think we've spoken about this quite often. People are struggling with some of those premiums and those covers and being able to cover some of those costs. And, you know, when it comes to savings, younger people were not as hip and aware about how important it is. What do people need to know? What are some of the decisions and actions that we need to take to ensure that we are in a position to cover those costs, pay our premiums, stay afloat?
Like I said, sit with your financial planner because if you know you're paying, say, 500 Rand a month for life cover, going off and you say, oh, must I pay this every month? Can I stop it? But if you know the reason why you're doing it, and it's for your family to cover your debt when you do pass away, it makes it easier to pay for something. Because a lot of people say, you know what, Elbie, I'm not going to pass away soon. I don't need life cover. My family will be okay. But just make sure, because you never know. You don't know the date when you do pass away.
And then to wrap it up, you know, the challenge is oftentimes this information can be a lot to digest or to understand. If you were to break it down into some of the first few steps, like departing from this, if someone hears this, what can they do? What should they do to start that journey?
Most important, I think, sit like we're discussing your personal circumstances. Sit down, we look at your budget, what needs to be paid, we look at your family structure, we look what's needed, and then we make a plan. So if you know why you're paying something, it's much easier, and very important, you need to have a will. You don't want the state decided on your succession and who must inherit your hard-working savings. So make appointment with us or your financial plan. It will be time well spent.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It's always good.
So you've heard it. Sometimes all you need to do is just take that first step. Alex Forbes is here for you through that whole journey, because what happens at the end is inevitable. We are all here on a limited time with a limited experience. And so make the decisions whilst you can to protect yourself and your family members. Catch us once again on Money Focus with Alex Forbes next time.